Okay, guys, so welcome to the URBONUS podcast. I'm the host, Donatas URBONUS, and I couldn't find a better timing to have these gentlemen as my co-hosts as well. Errick McCollum of Karşıyaka Izmir and Marcus Foster of Ritas Vilnius joining me today. So welcome to the podcast, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And I said that I couldn't find a better timing to host you here on the podcast because we're coming off a weekend where Luka Doncic scored 73 points, and I have two great scorers, legendary scorers here on the podcast because Errick McCollum in 2015, while playing in China, scored 82 points in a crazy night. He still holds the record of the CBA. And Marcus Foster as well, he had 47 points in his first pro season in South Korea. So this whole thing brought a bit different reactions, I would say. And I have three real tweets for you. I'm not going to say who posted those tweets, but these are tweets coming off NBA people. And I will ask you to illustrate, to go with a tweet that I'm going to mention that would illustrate your reaction. There are three tweets. The first one is, Luka unreal, they traded Luka, right? The second one is, damn, I miss defense in the NBA. And the third one is, somebody going to score 100 before the season is over. So if you're anonymous NBA fan, guys, which tweet you're going to post on X?
I think for me, the defensive one. Because I think a lot of people think in the NBA, when they watch the NBA, they think they're not playing defense or they're just letting Luka score 70. Like, they just want to be the team that Luka scores 70 on. But I don't think it's like that. It's Luka Doncic at the end of the night, one of the best scorers in the world. You know, it's not like they wanted him to do it. He can do that any given night, especially with his usage rate. He has the ball in his hand a lot. So I think the persona of, NBA teams don't play defense is kind of a crazy thing to think about at this point because you're going against the best players in the world. So you can only imagine how hard it is, especially when a guy gets it going. Of course, he can get up to 70.
So you're not going with this one, damn, I miss defense in the NBA, right? You're going.
That's the one I'm going with.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I thought that it's related to the fact that now there's, like, they say no defense in the NBA.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, everybody thinks that guys in the NBA aren't playing defense, but you're going against Luka Doncic. What can you expect? All you can do is just go out there and try your best and see what happens. And it's a night where he got it going, so he had 73.
Okay, Errick, what's your pick?
For me, I have a caveat to that. So I also picked that the intensity, the focus, the effort is not there on a day-to-day basis. And it's tough. I mean, you play 82 games. Sometimes you're coming off a back-to-back. Sometimes it's hard to muster up the energy. The problem is I can see the difference in the playoff defense, how hard it is for those stars to score. It's taking a lot of shots, a lot of possessions. Guys' percentages are lower. I mean, if you watch NBA basketball, you literally see the difference, not only in the player's effort, but in the scout and in the assertiveness to get the ball out of the main players and to make the supporting cast beat you. So what I hate is, okay, Luka's unstoppable. He's been that way since he was probably 12 years old. I've seen it at about 17, 18. No one can guard him. This is clear. So he's going to score. He's going to get 30. He's probably going to get 40. 70 is unacceptable because as a player, I don't care what the coach says. If we're in Europe right now and there's a guy scoring 40, 50 points, I'm leaving my man every time to go double team. I'm leaving every time. I don't care. I feel like with Luka, he's so special. He's so great. Why was there not a trap as soon as he touched the ball to dribble up the court like they used to do James Harden in his Houston day? Why did you not funnel him? Two guys right there. You're going to pass the ball. Someone else is going to beat me. Maybe you'll get 20 assists. Luka is capable of this. He can get 20 assists. You're not going to get 70 points on my team if I'm a coach. I'm designing it. I'm scheduling it so that the ball is out of your hands. Of course, one-on-one, no one's guarding Luka. He's that special. He's that gifted. He can score in a magnitude of ways from the inside, from the outside, from the post, off the dribble. Just the highlights, it looked so easy. It looked like he didn't break a sweat. He was walking to the hole, leaning on him because he's strong. He has that body finishing. I felt like he treated him like little boys, like it was Conjure. That's how good Luka is. So I don't take away from his dominance, from his ability, because I'm a fan. I've always been a fan. I always thought he was that guy, but you have to send a double and a triple team. My goodness. Like Kobe used to get double and tripled all the time. Why is Luka getting to play one-on-one? Stop it.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. That's an interesting perspective because some blame the NBA that we have today. Very high-paced basketball. Officials, they're not making any calls. Or they're making too many calls and making the game easier for the offensive player. High-paced game with a lot of threes. But in Errick's case, I'm hearing that it's more about coaching, right? About the coaching decision not to trap Luka, not to double Joel Embiid like it happened against the San Antonio Spurs. So that's what you're disappointing the most, right? With the coaching decisions.
Yes.
Okay, but in any looking from any perspective, I believe it's not easy to score 73 points, no matter what's the defensive coverage, no matter how hot you are. And I just wanted to ask you guys what it's like to have this 82-point, 4 to 7 point game. What people shouldn't overlook looking at these high scoring performances. What is the setting of the game that leads you to having such a high scoring night?
I mean, it's a tough thing to do, honestly. I know Errick can contest to that. It takes a lot to be able to do that. I mean, when I did it, I think I was around 20, 24. And even that at my age, I was exhausted at that point. So for someone to do 70, you have to be in physical shape to be able to do that. But part of it's that thing, it's just when you get it going, you just know it's your night. And you can tell sometimes for me, it could start in the warm up. I just know it's going to be one of them nights, or I take my first couple shots and I just know that's how it's going to be. So it's just one of those modes you get in where you just feel it. No matter what you're throwing up, it's going in. And I think a big thing about those are three-pointers. I think for Joel Embiid to score 70, that's pretty good because he's doing that a big man. You see a lot of the guards be able to do it because you're getting so many three-pointers. You're adding your free throws with the fouls and stuff like that. It's a tough thing to do, but it also relies on the refs also. I think he shot 18 or something free throws. So that adds to his points on top of what he's doing. So it's a tough thing to do.
Errick, what do you remember about the morning following 82-point game?
Oh, man, you're going to be exhausted. Your body's aching. You're sore. You're tired. Just like Marcus said, it just takes a toll on you because you're constantly in attack mode. You're going against double, triple teams usually as the game progresses. You kind of saw that, I think, last night. Luka was excellent against Sacramento when it came to distributing. That told me that they brung the help. They brung the double teams. They brung the rotations. He had 17 assists. He also had 10 rebounds, but you could tell he didn't have the energy offensively. He was 9 of 26, 1 of 9 from 3. So that shows you the toll that scoring 50, 60, 70 something points does. But oftentimes when you're a great scorer, I know for myself, once I get in the rhythm, it's too late. You got to do something at the beginning of the game. You got to make it tough. You got to make it hard. And a really good score, they still can find it. You're seeing so many times in the past when Vasilis Spanoulis would have 0 points through 3 quarters playing against Panathinaikos. And then in the fourth quarter, 15 points, game winner. A good score is going to find a way to affect the game. But if you allow them to get in the rhythm, if you allow them to feel comfortable, to see that ball going in after 5, 6 makes, you can put the best defender in the world on them. It's too late. And I think the biggest thing is just your conditioning, being in shape. And then the next biggest thing is your teammates. Are they haters? Do they like you? Do they believe in you? Because teammates who like you, who believe in you, they're going to set better screens. They're going to go out the way to look for you. They're okay with playing through the hot hand that game. And oftentimes a lot of teammates can block a player's success or blessings on the court because they might not set that screen. They might not pass. There could be some jealousy. So I think if you have the right conditioning throughout your body where you can continue to attack, continue to score a multitude of ways, and then you have teammates who play through you when they recognize that you're hot, that's where you'll see guys start to have those numbers and that success. A lot of guys aren't built like that or cut like that. The game has changed. The younger generation is different. But this is the key to having a big night and having that success, and then hoping that coaches don't double team you early and disrupt your rhythm.
So, Errick, when you dropped 82, you were like 26, 27, right?
Yes.
It was like 9 years ago. So, yeah. And Marcus, you told you were like 24.
Yeah.
Okay, that's important coming to our next question.
Mm-hmm.
So, Luka Doncic scoring 73 points in a 48 minutes NBA game is basically equivalent to around 1.5 points per minute. So in a EuroLeague, in a 40-minute basketball game, it would be equivalent to around 60.8 points. And we have EuroLeague single game scoring record, which belongs to Shane Larkin. He dropped 49 points in 2011. So we still didn't have a player who scored over 50 points. Who do you think has the best shot at scoring 50 points in the EuroLeague from the current players?
That's pretty tough, because that goes back to kind of what Errick was saying. You got to have good teammates around you that want to see you be successful. So when Shane Larkin did that, you could see that his teammates wanted him to go get that record and break his own record. So it's tough. It's tough to see who would do that in this situation, because the system in Europe is based on a team type of thing. So it's hard for guys to go get, shoot 25, 30 shots. But if I had to put my money on anybody, of course I would always go with Mike James. Because when Mike James gets it going, he's unstoppable, just like how Shane Larkin was that night. So, I'm always for scoring in EuroLeague. I'm always gonna put my money with Mike James.
Okay, fair enough. Errick, what you have?
I have a twist. I love Mike's game. I think the coaches won't let him because they're gonna double him. They're gonna box him, one him. They're gonna try some gimmick defenses. I think his ability for sure, but I just don't know if he'll get enough shot attempts based on how defenses collapse to him. And most of his work is on ball. So like when you're an on ball guy, it's easy to double team you. So my twist, I think, is Marcus Howard. It has to be a prolific 3-point shooter. When you're talking about somebody to score 50 points almost, you have to be able to hit the three at a high rate, because if you can hit the three, you can avoid some double teams. And he does his work off ball and on ball. So he's coming off screen. You can't double team someone coming off of a pin down, a floppy action, or double staggers or elevators. So if he's running around coming off screens, he's getting those shots. He's harder to guard. Then when he gets his rhythm, he's going. And this is the guy who has the green light that can shoot 13, 14, 15 three-pointers. And he's playing in the Spanish league. So maybe if it's against a Spanish team where the tempo is fast, things are flowing, where they're helping on the strong side, or they're doing crazy rotations, there could be an opportunity for him to get it. I think it's possible, but it's just like in Europe, coaches aren't going to stand by and just watch a guy just continue to torch you. Like we're in the NBA, I feel like in the regular season, sometimes it's like people get caught up in the show and the display, and they let guys play one-on-one, and I just don't understand that. Like it's just something that I just never agree with, and I feel like it's going to be extremely difficult to do what Shane did, because I feel like you have to hit 9 to 11 3-pointers, right? And so if you do that, that's going to put you around that 27 to 33 points off of threes. And so when you score, you got to break down like a formula how you score. He needs to get to the free throw line, I would say 7 to 10 times. So let's say he's on that lower end. He hits 10 threes, 30 points, 7 free throws, 37. Then he still has to get 13 points off of twos. He has to go 7 for 12, 7 for 13 from twos. And then with that means he shot 25, 26 shots. And, Dusko gives him a lot of freedom, but, he has other good players on his team, other good guys who demand touches, who demand the ball. It could be extremely difficult.
Yeah, it might be extremely difficult for any EuroLeague player, but I also try to look at it from the analytics perspective. And I picked Marcus Howard as well, because we're talking about the player who is coming off the second highest paced team in the EuroLeague with 84 possessions per game. And I'm picking the leader in field goal attempts and 3-point attempts as well. So Marcus Howard is attempting 14.5 field goals per game. He's averaging 9.2 3-point field goals per game, To compare, Scottie Wilbekin is second with 7.1, so it's a huge difference already. And Marcus Howard tends to get on fire quite frequently because he holds 2 of 5 higher scoring games this season already. And that's why I asked about your age, guys. Marcus Howard is still 24. So he has all the energy, all the enthusiasm in his game. And also he has few years, to make it happen, to make this 50-point game happen. And, Mike, Shane, with all the respect, they're like getting older, so they might be looking for passing more or something. So
I can see how they play. It seems like they like him and they would support him if he's hot when he's doing certain things, because he shoots some erratic shots, but he's a tough shot maker. And oftentimes I watch team and players' body language when guys are shooting fadeaway threes or taking these type of risks, and it seems like everyone's okay, they're sold on it. And then the other thing that's super important, we talked about conditioning. Who better to break the record than someone who plays for Dusko? He's in shape if he plays for Dusko. He's in shape. So he's going to have the motor and the energy.
This guy's unstoppable.
I've heard about his preseason, so I wouldn't want no parts of that. He's probably in the best shape of his life. But with the Marcus Howard thing, I remember I played him in college, and the thing we were trying to do with him, we were like, all right, we're gonna stop everybody, but we're gonna let Marcus Howard have a night. So they were like, Marcus, you guard him. And I'm like, okay, so I'm the one getting picked on tonight. So they're like, we're just gonna let him shoot and just try to get him to shoot him out the game. So I'm like, okay, coach, we'll try this out. It worked for like the first 5 minutes, but I think he ended up with like 32 points, and I think he went like 8 for 15 from 3. But it was like quick how he gets it done. Like he gets it up at a high clip, and once he gets going, nothing you can do to stop him. I'm fouling him on shots. He's still getting them off and still making it. So it's cool to see him now doing it on a high level, because I've seen him do it in college, and it makes sense for him to be in this setting that he's in now. And so I think, for him, the sky's the limit because of how his ability to score. And then with the teammates too, that's a big thing too. When you got the confidence of your team to play like that, it's hard to stop a guy like that.
Mm-hmm. He gonna make a lot of money. Only 24. Oof, bright future for him. I like his game. If he learns to create a little bit more, man, he'll be unstoppable. And it will lead to more wins. I think that's where you've seen that step that Shane and Mike James took when they added that creation and that playmaking ability with a prolific scoring. When he does that, he's only 24. His game is going to keep climbing. When he does that, you're going to see Baskonia soar. I've seen he signed the extension, and you're going to see him continue to take off and be probably one of the up-and-coming faces of the EuroLeague.
Whether it's Marcus Howard, whether it's Mike James, who do you sign as your cornerstone defensive player to build your defense on your team? Who are you building your defense around? Who is the guy?
I'm going John Brown for sure, because I like the 4 men that can switch out and be able to guard guards and also hold his own in the post. And then his motor, like what you're going to get out of him every night. So, you want a guy like that on your team. You don't want to go against him. So I'm always going to put him down, especially the story that he has, playing second division and coming up, and now he's in the EuroLeague, stuff like that. You want guys that's been at the bottom and work their way up, because they know how to get to the top.
Yeah, I like your pick because I think that the conversation always goes around Eddie Tavares and Thomas Walkup. But in this group, I think that only John Brown is capable of basically defending all 5 positions at a really high level without having some clear disadvantages in those matchups.
Mm-hmm.
So John Brown is a good pick, and I remember I did EuroLeague players survey during the season, mid-season. Yeah, and John Brown was top 3 pick as well, and at some point of the race he was taking the lead, but again Eddie Tavares won this unofficial mid-season award. So that's a good pick. What about you, Errick?
Yeah, I agree with Marcus. I think when you're talking about versatility, right? So with Walter Tavares, you're going to want smaller guards paired with him. Someone who can get into the ball, who can pressure, who can funnel all the penetration to him. So he can block shots, so he can contest, do those type of things. So you need guys who are quick, who are over the screens. Obviously, um, Campazzo, he does that. He's excellent at it. Of putting that pressure on, making guys uncomfortable, and basically the whole Madrid team kind of pushes everyone to the paint. I think with guys who couldn't go over the screen or guys who struggled to get into the ball, I think it would negate some of his dominant ability on defense to kind of rim protect, to do those things, because guys would have opportunities to pull up. But with that defense, that helps him. But with a guy like John Brown, you can put him with small guards who can bring the defender or bring the ball handler into him, and he can kind of be active with his hands. He also has that ability to switch if you have taller guards and you want to play a switching defense, and those guards can guard the bigs and underneath. He has that. He's the best hedge defender I've ever played against. His activeness, how he gets out to the ball, he's always reaching, he's moving his hands, his recovery back. He's good at helping on the weak side. He's good. A lot of defenders are only good off ball if they're a shot blocker. He's good off ball with rotations, with getting his body there. He can take the charge. He can go meet you at the rim, or he can wall up and just force a tough shot. But he's also good roaming weak side for steals. And then on ball, I've seen him lock down 5s, 4s, 3s. I've seen him switch out. I played against him many years in Russia. And, we had a rule, don't attack John Brown. Call a 5 or call another screen, even screen with a guard, but you do not attack John Brown. And, you want to be stubborn when you're young, but as you get older, you realize, shoot, I'm not about to waste my energy with him. Let me get someone who's easier. Come on. I'm not about to prove a point. And so that's how I feel like when you're talking about versatility, when you're talking about someone who can guard 1 through 5, when you're talking about someone that you can put in any defensive scheme, whether we're hedging, whether we're playing high flat, high protect, whether we're switching, John Brown is the only guy in the EuroLeague who can do all of that at a high level.
And too, at certain times, you could put him at the 5 because offensively, he's not a liability. Also, he can knock down shots and he can get on the offensive rebound to him. Certain teams that could change the whole game for them. So I think, like Errick is saying, that versatility he has, it's unmatched, and you don't get that in a lot of players.
Yeah. Finally, we have a different name in this conversation. It was always Eddie Tavares and Thomas Walkup, so I'm happy that we're making a campaign for another name for the Best Defensive Player of the Year award. But there's the reason I tried to put you in the GM shoes, because I think that I have a bigger GM assignment for you guys for this question, because Team USA just announced a 41-player pool for the Paris Olympics that features players such as LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Edwards, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Kyrie Irving, and many others. So, gentlemen, after failing to win the World Cup twice in consecutive championships and losing the status of being undefeatable national team in the world, in order to defend the podium in Paris Olympics, how are you building Team USA roster? Are you going all out for the best names available? Or there's some specific strategy, knowing FIBA basketball, knowing what it takes to be efficient here, that you're using, to build a little bit different team? Not the most stacked team, but team with clear roles, some guys who can help, some guys who are going to steal the show in order to win games, not to have the all-star team.
It's tough to look at because when you look at it, you want to think, I'm just going to go with the big guns and, just bring, our top guys, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard. You want to get all those guys. But I think when you look at it, you have to be a little strategic about it. Like for me, I'm going to look more at guys like Austin Reeves, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, guys like that are kind of like glue guys. They're a little bit younger, played in more of the college setting more recently, because I think that's a big part too, because I think in the NBA, the court's so big, with the defensive 3 seconds and the shooters you have. So I kind of want to get a good mix. Of course, I'm going to go with LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid. Those are going to be my main guys, but I think you have to be more strategic about it because these European teams are getting better and they're catching up. And I think a big thing now is they're getting more confident. they're like, we're just as good. We can beat you guys. So that's a big part also. So I think the job Grant Hill has is going to be very tough, but I think they have to figure out a way to kind of scheme their way to win.
Errick, do you have your final 12-man roster?
Yeah, so I was trying to think, and you don't want all superstars, right? But you can't say no to Kevin Durant, to LeBron, to Steph, like Joel Embiid. Like these guys are just generational talents. So I was thinking outside of Joel Embiid, I want my bigs to be more role player like guys who are okay with doing the dirty work, getting rebounds, not complaining about getting the ball. So for me personally, and this is tough. This is really tough, but of course I'm taking Steph Curry. No way I'm not. Of course I'm taking Jason Tatum. No way I'm not. Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Joel Embiid. All right, we have those five. I think a sleeper that I think is perfect for FIBA basketball, Jimmy Butler. He doesn't care about shots. He's physical. He's going to guard. He'll go lock up guys. He can guard the Lukas of the world. He can give you that physicality and that sacrifice. He's a perfect candidate. And then Bam. I think that's another guy who doesn't need touches. They come from that Miami Heat culture. All they care about is winning. I think they can put their egos aside and do what's necessary for the team. And then you got to bring a guy like a Mikal Bridges, 3-and-D guy, long, athletic. Also, another guy who doesn't care about touches. I think for the guard, it's going to be tough. I'm trying to choose between Tyrese Halliburton or De'Aaron Fox. I think those are two guys who are really good. I think I'm leaning towards Tyrese, just the way he shoots it and the way he plays the pick and roll. But I'm a big Fox guy, and I think that you can't go wrong with either one of those. And then you have to put in some youth, someone who's going to kind of light a fire under those vets, someone who's going to push them, someone who barking down their back and going to let them know, I'm here. You old. That's Anthony Edwards. I got to bring him. He's someone who's going to bring the fire. He going to wake up those guys. He going to make them a little bit uncomfortable when they relax because he's going to push the envelope. And then if you continue to go down, I think Aaron Gordon is a great pick. He's someone who plays in that system. He's used to playing with Jokic. It's kind of a European type style offense that Denver runs. And he's a guy who's going to give you the groundwork. So my guards and my forwards, like small forwards and twos and ones, they're going to be very aggressive. Obviously, they're the scorers. But my 4s and 5, I want them to be the junkyard dog types. And then a lot of people won't like this pick, but I don't care. I'll do. I'm going Draymond Green. He's perfect for Europe. When my guards are getting trapped in the short row, who better to have than the best short row big in the game? Someone who makes the right play, the right pass, someone who can have 6 or 7 points and be the most important player in the court in the crucial moments, and who can provide that defensive intensity. So those are the type of bigs I'm looking at. Another sleeper is Mitchell Robinson. If you want some rim protection, you want length, great shot blocker, alley-oop guy. So 1 through 3, it's going to be big names for me. It is because they're that damn good. But 4 through 5 is going to be guys that you probably don't really give the credit to, but they're great players in their own right. They just do it a little differently.
Yeah, so I see a lot of unhappy people after your final 12-man roster. I mean, a lot of guys that were left out of the list. And it's actually interesting that you included Draymond Green, because he's not in the list. He was not invited. He was not involved in this 41-player pool. And we kind of, understand the reasons. He's not the most popular guy in the NBA right now. Has a very bad track record of doing some bad things. But I think it's a big loss for Team USA, because to me he also looked as a perfect fit. And I think that he was one of the key guys that won the gold in 2021 Tokyo Olympics in that tough competition, but they lost against France, I think, in the group stage, and they got their revenge back in the final. So he was huge because he could play all 5 positions. He played as a center in some games, and in FIBA basketball, this thing would have worked well at a high level.
Yeah, I think it's crazy they left him off the list, though, for the other reasons, because everything, like Errick's saying, he brings that mentality to the team, and he's gonna change. He's gonna change everything for him because he's playing for the name in the front. Like, he knows what's at stake. He's been there. So it's a crazy thing to do, but you get it.
Yeah, and I remember he was taking such a big pride of wearing national team jersey. And I remember that after winning the gold, he was like addressing all the haters in the United States that were doubting that team. So it just showed how much it meant for him, to play for the national team and to win gold with that group as well. So I believe that this mentality is a big thing, and sometimes it's an underrated thing in those big teams.
And in Europe, the game can get chippy. It can get choppy. There's some guys who play a little beyond that physicality line. Some guys who can get dirty. Some guys who are out there to irritate, to get under the skins of some of those USA stars or the stars from other countries as well. And what better guy to have than Draymond to be that person for you? And when something gets out of pocket or someone from one of the European teams does a little bit too much, who better to have than Draymond to put him in check? Because he will.
Yeah, every good team needs a villain. And if you remember, Dylan Brooks played a huge role for Canada, winning that bronze medal in the recent World Cup. He had some amazing games in the competition. He basically took Luka Doncic out of the quarterfinal game against Slovenia. So it's huge to have those, hard-nosed guys on your team. And since I mentioned Canada,
I forgot 3 guys that you're gonna have to probably pick 2 out of 3. But Anthony Davis, but we never know with his health. Paul George, and then Kyrie. I think like those 3 probably will be in, but like it could be overkill because it's just going to be hard to keep everyone happy with all those guys that need touches and minutes. And you don't want to disrespect a Hall of Famer, one of the best players, by maybe playing them spot minutes.
Yeah, when I looked at the list, those 3 names came to my mind, but I would leave those 3 off for me because I think that just brings a little bit too much egos, and it's kind of those things you just don't know what you're gonna get. Anthony Davis, is he gonna be healthy enough? Paul George, are you okay? Maybe one game you might get 2 shots, and then the next game, like, how are you gonna be able to filter playing good between each game? So, and then Kyrie. I think Kyrie's more better when he's on the ball. He's more ball dominant, making decisions. So I just think, like Errick was saying, with those guys that, what they're going to bring. They're not the big names. I think I'm going to save the roster for guys like that because you can't go wrong when you got LeBron James coming down the court, throwing it to Joel Embiid with Steph Curry on a 3-point line. So it's kind of, let's build a team around these guys. Let them be our main players, and then let everybody else do the dirty work.
By the way, which team do you guys see as the biggest threat to Team USA in the upcoming Paris Olympics? Just a short reminder that we're going to have France, South Sudan, Canada, Japan, Germany, Serbia, and Australia as already qualified teams. And from the qualification stages, Spain, Greece, Slovenia, Bahamas, Italy, or Lithuania might join the competition. So I hear Serbia already, right?
Serbia. Nikola Jokic. No one can guard that, man. You've seen it. Joel Embiid ain't played in Denver since 2019. Why is that? I don't know. I love Joel. He's a beast. I ain't never dunked no smoke. I ain't never ran from an opponent. Even if I was banged up, hurt, and I was playing against someone who was, I guess, my match, who I think, like, if I'm Joel Embiid, I'm 1 or 2 big man in the league, right? If I'm Jokic, I'm 1 or 2. I'm not missing those games. Like, I might even be hurt. I'm coming for that one. I might sit out the game before that to be fresh for that game. Like, so that just tells me no one can guard Jokic. And they have a plethora of guys who play at a high level. Bogdanovic, they can throw out all the European stars. There's guys who play in the EuroLeague who surprise you. I mean, you've seen it in this summer in the World Cup with Alexi coming in balling. That was a guy who's probably not even going to make the team if they come in with their normal roster. And he's a great player in his own right. But that just shows you, like, the depth and the talent that Serbia has. And, that's something that, could be really tough, especially if they're playing inside out, because Jokic is a master of the game, and he knows all those guys' tendency. I think that's a tough matchup for them. Obviously, the U.S. has greater depth, greater overall talent, but you keep in mind, this is a makeshift team. these guys have never played together. Where a lot of those Serbian guys, those Lithuanian guys, those French guys, they've been playing together since they were kids. They came up in the youth program together. They came up in all those domestic leagues, everything. And they come back every summer and play. Where the USA, we bring a whole different team, until the Olympics. They play together once every 4 years. So where do you get that chemistry? Where do you get that connection? Where do you get that trust? And that's what gives the European teams a greater chance. Their talent has increased, yes, but that chemistry, that knowing what your teammate's going to do, knowing where they want the ball, knowing how to defend, knowing your coach's system, all those type of things can take you to another level and have a player feel uncomfortable and playing out of their minds or out of their ability.
Yeah, that team thing, that's a big aspect. I was going to go with Germany.
Okay.
Because I remember watching them play in the EuroBasket, what was that, 2-3 years ago, and I was like, they're going to be a scary team come the World Cup. I didn't think they were going to actually win it, but actually seeing them play in the World Cup and how they play, they're a dangerous matchup to any team. And, like Errick said, like they've been playing together the past 4 years, so they know what to expect. And then Dennis Schroeder, he's a whole different beast when he's playing with the Germany jersey on. So I think that's going to give him a good run. And I think Canada, whoever Canada brings, because they have so much talent they can breed. So I think whoever they bring is going to be big to their success.
Yeah.
Not to sidetrack you. Is this true? Ricky Rubio is going to Barcelona?
Was it tweeted somewhere right now?
Yeah, it's all over Twitter right now. Ricky
really?
Rubio
We're just recording the podcast here, and there's Ricky Rubio.
This is crazy.
I mean, if it's not Woj, I'm not going to believe it. So, who's reporting it?
I seen they said that he released something.
In the podcast.
Yeah, I don't like to be in your business.
Man, it's in Spanish.
But something popped up on the computer where it said like he's practicing with Barca or something.
Yeah, he confirms that he will train with Barcelona. I see myself eager and strong to see how I react the ball in my hands. Okay, I cannot read the full statement because it's in Spanish, but that's interesting. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. He might bring some interesting perspective in the title chase because nobody really considered Barca as having real shot at winning the EuroLeague. That's interesting. Okay,
Boy
what do you think about this move?
Back home, the boy wonder coming back home. I think he's an elite pick and roll player. I think he's a guy that can kind of transcend their offense, take it to another level, give him more depth. I don't know how healthy he is, but the way he can move the ball, the way he can make the game easier for others, the way he can increase that tempo, that speed. I mean, he's an ideal fit, for any Spanish team, let alone somebody who can handle the pressures and expectations of wearing the Barcelona colors. This is a guy who's been under the microscope since he was 14 or 15 years old. So, I like it. I think him and Hermangones running that pick and roll, some pick and pop situations with Jabari Parker and him, it get really intriguing, if he's healthy and he's able to go.
I mean, I thought that was always a good move. You've always heard it that there's a chance he was going to go there the past couple summers. He's just going to bring a different dynamic to that team, like Errick was saying, with the pick and rolls, his style of play. And I think with his health in a Europe setting, not playing so many games like in the NBA, I think you can kind of manage his health. And, when it's time for the playoffs in both leagues, ACB and EuroLeague, I think he could be at his best in his top shape. So I think that definitely kind of puts him in a conversation, depending on how he reacts. But I think that definitely puts him in the conversation.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, there's no agreement with Barca yet regarding playing for Barcelona. And if he actually wants to play again, they need to sign him until February 7th because this is the deadline for the last signings for the remaining EuroLeague season. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We have basically 10 days left before the deadline. But yeah, this is getting interesting. And, if he comes back, if he plays for Barcelona, there's a high chance that he will play for the Spanish national team as well. With Lorenzo Brown, also with talent that they have on the Spanish national team roster, we also would need to consider Spain as some sort of threat to Team USA. But just to get back to our topic about Team USA, I also really like Canada. I think that they have less depth in talent, but I think that they have those star players playing perfect roles. They're the clear leader, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Let's hope Jamal Murray will join the national team this time. They have guys, scorers like Wiggins, RJ Barrett. They have interesting dynamic bigs with Kelly Olynyk, Dwight Powell, and they have this head coach, Jordi Fernandez, who kind of nailed it from the beginning in the World Cup. It was huge to take that team to the top 4 in the World Cup competition after such a long drought of big results with Canada national team basketball program. So it's also I would say, a new powerhouse that we have in our national team basketball, and it's not going to be easy for Team USA, even despite having this group of superstar players, all-time greats, future Hall of Famers. So that only will make this Olympic tournament more interesting. And it's interesting that we haven't heard France's name in this conversation. You're not believers in bigs?
They just let me down. I think too many bigs kills the spacing, takes away from your guard's ability to create, because you can shrink the court, especially in FIBA basketball, with all the help from the weak side. You can't play with all these bigs. I mean, I think my fellow Lithuanian brothers are starting to understand it. With their national team, playing with 2 5s is difficult. No matter how good they may be, how talented they are, it's extremely tough to play with 2 5s. The spacing is just not the same. And it just takes away from the speed of the game, from the rhythm, all those things. Maybe you can do it for 5 to 8 minutes, but to do it for 20 to 25 minutes is just too much. So, I think until, France decides to change that and until they rise to the occasion, we've seen them in clutch moments so many times and they stumble. I think they have great talent. They have a lot of good players, but we've been waiting for a response or an answer and we just haven't received it. So, I think until they show a little bit of life, I think they'll be on the back burner as far as someone that you expect consistency from. Yes, they can be a big team. Yes, they can do that. But can they consistently put things together? They're the type of team that will upset a Serbia or Germany and then, lose to a small country team that's they're not expected to lose to.
Yeah, definitely. The talent's there. I just didn't see enough from them in the World Cup. I just didn't think they were playing their best. They have the possibilities to do that. I definitely would have liked Joel Embiid on that team. I think that might have brought a little bit something different. But, yeah, the big man format for the European competition is hard to do because of the spacing. It takes away a lot of the spacing. I think, like you were saying, with the Lithuanian national team, I think that kind of hurt them in the Euro baskets, and I think that's why they played a little bit better in the World Cup because, it was just more spacing. And they have a lot of shooters, so it helps them space out the court a little bit more, and then you can get Valanciunas on them dump downs or throw it down into them and give them time to work. So you can never sleep on France.
Yeah.
You never know, but, I just think that they have a lot to prove, though.
Yeah, if they had Joel Embiid, I mean, that would have been a cheat. They already have Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, Vincent Poirier, Matthias Lesor, Mustafa Fall as their centers in the national team. And I'm not even talking about power forwards like Yabusele or Nicolas Batum that could play this role. But on the other hand, we have Evan Fournier, who's not playing in New York for the consecutive season, and also Nando De Colo. If he stays healthy, if he still has it at how old is he? Like 36 or so. If he can be that elite guard to win national team competition with such a big competition coming from Team USA, Canada, all the other teams, that's not easy. And they were not very convincing in the last 2 tournaments.
And after playing the whole season in EuroLeague, French League on your body, having a short summer to turn around and get ready for the Olympics, it could be a tall task for De Colo.
And on the other news, I don't know if you guys managed to watch the entire game of the second consecutive Eternal Derby. And my question, I remember I kind of addressed this topic in the middle of the game. And my initial question was like, in 2 games, in 24 days, Zvezda outscored Partizan in the first half by a huge margin. On January 4th in the EuroLeague game, Zvezda was up by 21 points at the half. Yesterday, it was a 17-point lead after 2 quarters. and eventually the game ends. And it's a 2-point game in the end. So I had a question if Zvezda is a bad matchup for Partizan, if this is a coincidence or a tendency that should be worrisome for Partizan, although they are higher in the EuroLeague standards. Just in general, what do you take from that game, from this whole situation, from this whole sequence of Zvezda and Partizan derbies?
First thing I look at is who has the home court advantage. I think that plays a lot. The Serbian fans are the best fans, in Europe, and so I think that also plays an aspect a little bit. But I think I watched the game, and watching that beginning, it's so tough when you get down early because you're trying to build your confidence up. The other team has the confidence going. I remember when I played in Panathinaikos, my coach always say, this is high-level basketball. You can't spot points because it's hard to come back. They're high-level players. They're going to get going once they get going. And I think the matchup is actually perfect. The more I look at it with each players on each team, I think how Zvezda is taking off on them and having the big leads, I think that doesn't determine, how much better they are than them. I think it just determines how Zvezda is playing. I think early on looking at it, they made it look like a chippy physical game. Like you see guys, they were getting into it, a lot of shoving, and Zvezda was going to the basket attacking strong every time. They were going right at them, and I think Partizans early on they were kind of playing a little slow, not really forcing the issue. And you could kind of see towards the game got going on, especially in that fourth quarter. Partizan started getting more aggressive. Zvezda started slowing down, taking more three-point shots. So I think anytime they're played, the matchup is there. I think the home court advantage plays a part also.
For me personally, I think it's the success and then the lack of success in the EuroLeague. I think Partizan has shown life. They're 12-11. With the new pieces. Right now they're in that playoff spot. I think they're 10th, and they're having a solid year. A couple wins or losses could go one way or the other. A double week coming up. If you can go 2-0 in that, you can potentially propel yourself from 10th position to in the playoffs. So I think them having success, has them feeling good, has them, focused on that. And I think Red Star, anytime that you're struggling in the EuroLeague, with 9 wins, they're out of that play-in position. I think more emphasis is put on the derby game. Obviously, it's the biggest game. Everybody's has that focus and they're locked in on it. But it's just something like that desire. You can't be struggling in EuroLeague, not in playoff position, not in play-in position, and then also losing to Partizan. Like, it's just too much. And I think it's bringing out an extra desire, an extra fight, like something that they can hold on to, whereas Partizan, they want to win. They want to always beat Red Star for sure, but if you can continue to do well in the EuroLeague and then, maybe you lose a couple regular season games, they're probably banking on, getting them in the finals, whatever may happen or whatever. But I think that's where maybe their attention is kind of divided. And, it's not easy when you're playing against a wounded animal. Basically, like, their back is against the wall. You're talking about people's careers, people's livelihood, and it's not easy to live in Belgrade when you're continuously struggling in EuroLeague and you're losing to the rival. So, at least with Partizan, they have the EuroLeague, they have that hope, they have that ambition. So even if they lost the game, I think their fans would be upset, but they would be like, all right, we'll get the next one. Come on, keep going in EuroLeague. Whereas Red Star, if they don't turn it around, it's still early, it's 9 games, they still have time. But if they don't start getting wins and putting themselves in position to be in the play-in, they'll have to revert all their attention to the Adriatic League. And now there's more at stake than just beating Partizan. Now you're potentially talking about securing your wild card, because we know that the wild card is achieved as the champion of the Adriatic League. Now, who knows? Maybe the EuroLeague may make some adaptations. Maybe they'll give a license to one of the Serbian teams based on the beautiful presentation they have, the fan support, the beautiful gyms, all those stuff. They're putting on a great display. And, I think they're both deserving of both a license, both teams. But as of right now, we only know that the only way you're guaranteed is to be the Adriatic League champion. So, I think you're going to see them start to switch gears. And, when that starts to get closer and closer, you're going to see that intensity pick up even more. And, maybe Jericho is, trying things. He's a very smart coach. Like, he tries different lineups, he tinkers with different things, gets people ready, and he sees what works and what doesn't work. And then when it's money time, he always has that adjustment ready for you.
And Marcus mentioned this, shoving elbows, huge physicality level. And I know that EuroLeague is already a physical league, but when it takes those derby games, this physicality play goes to another level. And I think that this was becoming a little bit worrisome trend for Partizan, in a way that Zvezda is just more physical team. They have more players who know how to be physical. And when you look at Partizan, they have PJ Dozier, they have Frank Kaminsky, they have Caboclo, EuroLeague newcomers, that they still need to reach those limits to understand the limits of the physicality. And in those derby games, I think it's very important. And if you look at the history of those 3 games that they already played this year, Partizan won the first game, but if I remember well, they were also down like by 15 or 17, and it was another tough beginning for Partizan. So, I think it will take time for Partizan players to adjust, as Errick mentioned, to change their gear for Adriatic League, which is going to be very important. But it might be not that easy, because Zvezda, they have all the experience, they're physical, they know what it takes, they're deep, and we see Partizan always having some injury problems. So that makes us a perfect matchup for the remaining of the Adriatic League season, because as Errick mentioned, it's crazy that just the winners of the Adriatic League will be secured about their place in the EuroLeague next season. And I don't get it a little bit. I was in Belgrade a couple of days ago, and I travel a lot. I traveled around all EuroLeague destinations, and I cannot feel, as a basketball person, I cannot feel more happy than being in such places like Serbia, Greece, or Lithuania, because these people, they understand basketball. On every corner, you're going to have a basketball conversation. Every taxi driver will know what's best for their team. Every waitress in the restaurant knows which player has to suck, in order that his team needs to win his game. So, it's just such a joy to be in those basketball places, because if I go to Barcelona, Berlin, Munich, as soon as you leave the area of the gym, it's over. There's no basketball. Basketball doesn't exist to so many people. So I think that EuroLeague needs those, diehard basketball fan destinations. And if you're not, if you don't trust Serbian teams yet, if you're not sure about their consistency, because they had issues before, just give them a 3-year license. Just give them a 3-year license as a test. If they can prove you wrong, if they can stay consistently, and if that's the case, just give them the 10 A license, to have them in this 13 shareholders list. So it's interesting case that we're having, and as soon as it's not cleared with those licenses, we're going to see a lot of brutal things in Adriatic League derbies, fans throwing stuff at players, which is really bad, which is not going to stop, because this one competition determines if you can feel safe about your EuroLeague future.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I couldn't see EuroLeague without having both Serbian teams there, especially with these past couple years, how the fan support has been and the talent that they've been bringing in, both teams. I mean, I think it's a clear picture that they should have some type of license at least. I think it does make it the ABA league a little bit better, because what's at stake at the end of the year, but I think they both shown that they deserve it.
If they continue with Asvel or Alba Berlin, and they don't keep both Serbia teams, I should protest and cancel my EuroLeague subscription, because this is disgusting. You're talking about high quality basketball. You're talking about great fan support. These are 2 deserving teams. History, tradition. EuroLeague wants to be a pillar, something that continues to grow. Well, if you do that, you have to keep the competition high, keep the best teams in there, keep the teams with the money in there, keep the teams with the best basketball product. So, people might not like it, but if you're consistently at the bottom, You don't deserve to stay in the EuroLeague. That's the truth. If you're not keeping all the games competitive, you don't deserve it. So, make some changes EuroLeague. Keep both Serbian teams in there. I've never even played in Serbia, but I just like good basketball, and I like to watch uh, the EuroLeague continue to have competitive games, and I like to see the closeness and all the standings and every game counting and every game mattering. I don't want to have to turn on sometimes to the TV and know that, this game's over. And that's how I feel when I see those two other teams, the German team and the French team.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like no disrespect to those clubs, but they're not bringing much to the EuroLeague. I feel like you know what's going to happen at the end of the year. They're going to get some big wins, of course. They're a high level team, but they're constantly at the bottom every single year.
Marcus,
I think it'd be different.
They have 5 more wins than me or you in the EuroLeague right now. 5 more.
That's the crazy thing about it. It's like you say, I'm watching. If I'm flipping through and I'm watching, and I'm seeing anything Asvel, Berlin, I'm not tuning into those games.
There's no way. There's no way we're watching that.
It's just at the end, you know what you're gonna get out of it. You already know what's gonna happen. But then if you see the score, you're like, oh wow, that was a closer game than I thought. So it's like, okay, good. But I think there's just other teams out there, even in the Euro Cup, that I think that could deserve that. So I definitely agree with you. They got to make some changes at some point. I'm excited to see the expansion, see what they do with that. But yes, the Serbian teams definitely deserve a license.
Hey, and just with all the respect to Asvel and Alba, they were actually 2 teams that beat Zvezda this EuroLeague season, among those rare victories that they had in the EuroLeague. But I'm with you guys in this conversation, and I have to say that Errick is in shape. He's in shape today. You can feel that it's been a while since he was on the last podcast, and he looks like in shape like he was yesterday playing against Anadolu Efes, because Karşıyaka took an 18-point victory against Efes. Errick scored 18 points. Another great game, important win. And it's interesting because Errick played against Efes and Fener in 7 days, and from 30-point loss against Fener, they went on 18-point victory over Efes. So, Errick, explain me 2 things. Should Efes players and their fans have to be concerned about making the playoffs this year, and why? And should Fenerbahce fans start buying Final Four tickets?
Man, Saras was exactly what Fener needed. You're talking about a team that had a ton of talent, and I like it too. I think he did a great job with that roster, but I think sometimes to wake players up, there's usually a change that needs to be made sometimes. And, he did everything he could with that roster. He had him performing well. I think he was excellent with him, but there seemed to be quarrels or some type of disconnect, within the team. And I think you could see it with how they played. And with SARS, now they're playing harder, they're more energetic, they're more aggressive, they're more physical. And you can see that everyone is held to the same standard. He's going to yell at Scotty Wilbekin. He's also going to yell at that 20-year-old kid who's getting his first Turkish league minutes. And their structure, their system, it's just, I don't know, a different energy, because usually players understand that once a coach leaves, after a coach is fired, if the play doesn't pick up, if the performance doesn't pick up, you're next as a player. So I think that's where you see that assertiveness and that sense of urgency has arrived. So I think Fener looks excellent. They're in shape, they're in form, and I think you're going to see them continue to grow. And the fact that they're able to still win these games with these injuries, with all these things that are occurring, is showing you that they have a strong roster that Atuda's put together. And then Saras has inherited that, and he's putting in his tactics, his style. He seems to be, I really have a lot of respect for him, because I wasn't sure how things were going to go. With how Calates was used in Barcelona, with how Nigel was used in Barcelona. And you could just tell that he values winning more than anything, because he came in and he didn't hold any grudges. He didn't hold any past. What we're doing here is now show me what you got. And he gave ultimate freedom. And I don't know if that's because, his style has evolved, or if it's the roster he's been given or what, but he really gave guys a chance and to show them who he was and how they fit in his team. And he's been extremely fair. And so I think he's just handled the roster excellently. And, I think that's a team that has Final Four potential. Um, it's always hard for us because you want to root for the Turkish teams to do good. But then I know if they stay longer, then our playoffs get pushed back, and then I get to go home later. So it's a double-edged sword. Like, I want to see my Turkish brothers doing well, but it's like, is the Turkish league going to push back our playoffs? So, but I think they have a chance to be in the Final Four. As far as Efes, they've just been unfortunate. So many injuries. When you throw in a new coach who's extremely talented, who's shown you his ability to win some big games in Efes, who did a tremendous job in Turk Telecom, I think it's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to have a healthy roster. Then also keep in mind, a lot of these guys aren't his guys. There's some guys who were signed to contracts or he inherited, on Ottoman's watch. And I think once he gets to have, his guys that fit his system, his type of things that he wants, I think you'll see them take off. But I think if they didn't have injuries, you would see a different type of season. And the EuroLeague is so tricky because if you start off bad, the teams are so good. If you're missing players, it's so hard to get out the hole, right? And then you have to play different styles. You're playing one way because you have Shane there, you have Darius there, right? And then Will comes back, and this is a dynamic player, a dominant player. Now you kind of shift a little bit. Then Elijah Bryant comes back. Now you have to incorporate him, and this is another good player that needs touches, that needs the ball. You have to, and then you still in that time have Bobois, who's a guy who's playing, amazing, at 36 years of age and he's just, making shots, being clutch, doing it. So they have all these pieces, and roles are never developed because you're bringing guys in, you're taking guys out, you're bringing guys in, then you have to sign new guys. Then there's more mouths to feed, and it's like a revolving door. And it's just been the luck with injuries, and that's really destroyed them. And I think there's still time. They have 9 wins. This double week is huge coming up for them. I think they were distracted, when they played us, and I understand it. Like, anytime those games are close and you're fighting for your player life, they were a little bit distracted looking ahead. And I think if they can kind of go 2-0 in this week, I think you'll see them kind of turn that corner. And their coach is aware of it. He rested, Darius Thompson and Will Clyburn to prepare for this week. And this is a crucial week for them, a make or break week, I would say.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Efes. They had a really bad stretch this season due to all the circumstances that you mentioned. And it's not fair because they're playing in one of the toughest competitions in the world, and it's really hard to catch up with all these great teams. And he actually dropped 34 points against Karşıyaka, and they won that game. So, Errick, I just wanted to hear your thoughts about Moses' potential in the EuroLeague, also knowing that Olympiacos made this move only because Milutinov got injured, Mustafa Afal are all injured. They might be out for another month or a little bit longer. So, it's not going to be easy for Moses to stick in a front line where they also have Filip Petrushev, Luke Sikma, Alec Peters. So what do you think about Moses Wright and his chances of becoming a solid EuroLeague player that will save his roles, will save his minutes, even with all these injured guys getting back to the rotation at some point of the season?
If I had one word to describe Moses Wright, in the words of my friend John Holland, dog. That boy is tough. I mean, the motor, energy. He plays hungry, like he wants it. He's got a lot of Lazort in them when it comes to like playing through the contact, the energy, going for the rebounds, fighting. He doesn't have that defensive presence yet. That's what's missing. That's that step he needs to take to be able to guard, to be able to do those type of things. But I think the potential's there. But I think when you're on a smaller team, you're just so focused on offense. But the way he finishes, hard, right, shoulders, he hasn't learned how to pass a little bit. That's the struggle for a lot of bigs coming from a lower level team when you're the focal point of the offense, when you have that ball. Now you're playing with higher level guys. So when that double team comes, you got to be able to kick that ball out. You got to be able to make certain reads, I think. But, man, he can put the ball on the floor. He can attack to the right. He can finish right hand. He's athletic. He's strong. He goes through the contact. Great rebounder. Great energy, effort, motor. A lot of Lazort in him. So I like the sign and I like the move. I think he has huge potential, but he must learn to play the European style game. Right now, he's in bucket mode. Coming from the G League, coming from that mindset is, you got to get yours. And if he can incorporate being who he is, being that scorer, getting yours within that team flow, I think he could be really good in the ground, but he's going to have to adopt his game because Barjoka's style is different. But expect some big games, some impact. Expect also ups and downs. He's young. It's his first time dealing with this. He's going from a situation where he was getting 15 to 17 shots a night to now it's probably going to be 6 to 7 shots. He's going to a situation where he was having the ball, where he was getting post-ups, where now he's just going to be screening and cutting. So give him some time to adapt. But, man, that young man is going to be really good. And shout out to Dennis Lee, right? This is EuroLeague you. If you're a young player, you want to show your stuff, you want to go somewhere, you pick a team that has a history of producing players, right? So if you think this year, Daniel Oturu leaves after, 6 weeks? He's an animal too, by the way, but leaves Dennis Lee, gets bought out by Efes, and continues to dominate at Efes in Turkish League and EuroLeague, leaving no signs of a drop-off. Moses Wright now from Dennis Lee straight to Olympiacos. I think that was in like 3 or 4 weeks. And then if you go back to last year, Heidegger got bought out from Dennis Lee, went to Baskonia, and then they had also a Greek guard, and excuse my pronunciation of his last name, but Nikos Rapolopoulos, or he was a 3-man.
Yeah.
Rapolopoulos. Yeah, so he was the 3-man. He also went to Baskonia. And so it's at this point now where if you play at Dennis Lee and you play good, you're going to the EuroLeague. It's a EuroLeague pipeline. So for the agents out there, keep sending your guys there, I guess, because they're doing something right. So a lot of respect to them. Management's doing something good, getting money by selling players, getting money, keeping the organization up afloat, and continually to find good players. They're targeting good young players. But Moses Wright, he's a guy to watch. I tried to tell y'all about Jonathan Motley. Tried to tell y'all about Darius Thompson. Try to warn y'all. And, y'all continue to disregard sometimes an athlete speaking on it because, I'm still playing. Moses Wright is like that. But I'm worried about the system for him, because Olympiacos isn't a big man system. But he is like that. So we will see. It's going to be interesting, but a lot of good bids in Turkey. A lot of good bids.
What's his contract situation? Because I saw somewhere where he signed like for 1 month with a chance to sign to the end of the season.
Moses?
Yeah.
I think he has an option after the season to stay with Olympiacos. Okay. So he should remain until the end of the season, and then there will be an option to keep him or not.
Okay. Because when looking at that situation, I thought that was a big part. Because I read somewhere where it was 1 month with a chance for end of the season. So I thought for him and his style of play, I thought that would be tough. Yeah. And I didn't think it would work out because I think he needs time. Like Errick said, he's good and that potential is there. You can see it. So I think with giving him time to figure it out, to adjust, see where he can play his game and add, I think that's going to change a lot for him at Olympiacos. I think it's going to change Olympiacos' season for what he does. With their situation with the big man, with all their bigs they have, I think it's going to be a little bit hard for him to adjust down the line when they do get fully healthy. But I think it's a great pickup. I played him this year in China.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So, I'd seen his work that he did in China the year before, and I saw what he did when he got there, when he played against us, and, you can see the talent. Now, I definitely see what Errick is talking about where he's in that mindset where he has to go get his. He's coming from G League, coming from playing in the CBA, where two places where, you have to get your stats in order to get to where you're going to get to. So once he figures out that, I just need to fit in and blend in and everything's going to take care of itself, then he's going to be able to play in that EuroLeague anywhere, not just Olympiacos. I think also, too, on a higher level team.
And Errick, it's good that you mentioned Merkez Efendi. We have to, recognize this name better and better. I tracked European teams that served as the last stop for future EuroLeague players, or I would say future EuroLeague rookies, because, for instance, Richard Slomash also led Merkez Efendi this year to join the EuroLeague side, Virtus, but he had the EuroLeague experience before with Villeurbanne. So I tracked only those guys who went from domestic league team to the EuroLeague for a, let's say, rookie contract. And Merkez Efendi is a top 5 team since 2020 in producing those EuroLeague rookies. Like Murcia, Bursaspor, they have 5 players. that went to the EuroLeague. Merkez Efendi, Ulm, and Hapoel Jerusalem. They had 4 since 2020. And actually, Turkey has emerged as the most popular talent pool for future EuroLeague players in the last 4 years. And 4 of the 8 teams that produce the most EuroLeague rookies come from Turkey. So this connects to my question that I had to you guys. What do you think is the best way to get EuroLeague attention, to get recognized by the EuroLeague teams? What's the best way to get that EuroLeague contract?
If I'm a young player, I would go to a team that has low expectations in the league. By saying that, I'm not saying it's like a horrible team, but it's a team that is fighting not to get relegated. Those teams usually give their foreigners extreme freedom, and you have less pressure. So, like when they play a Fener, a Efes, a Besiktas, a Karşıyaka, a Gala, usually they're not expected to win. You play free in your situation, and I think they're usually little cities, not a lot to do. You play one game a week. You got a lot of time to get in the gym, to lift, to train, to work on your game, to improve yourself. And then you got all week to prepare for that team. You need to be watching the games, watching them EuroLeague games, watching the Euro Cup games, start familiarizing yourself with European basketball and what teams like and see from other guys. What gets guys paid, what gets guys notoriety, what gets guys attention. You can literally watch the game and you can see, oh, I hear this Mike James is good, right? If you're a guard, let me see what they like about Mike James. Boom, I know. Oh, I hear that John Brown's a great defender. Let me see what he does. Like, the game is easy. It's right there. Everything is right at your fingertips. EuroLeague pass, whatever. If you want to spend a couple of dollars, do it. It's an investment in yourself. But I would go to one of those teams where you're going to have that freedom, where you're going to be allowed to make mistakes, where you're going to play 30 plus minutes if I'm a young guy, before I would go to maybe a mid or higher level club where you're going to play, instead of 33, 34 minutes a night, now you're playing 18 to 22. Now you don't have that freedom to mess up. Now there's vets and there's guys who are established, and if you make a mistake or two, you're out the game. So this is what I would do if I was younger. Build your way up, build your confidence, build your name so that you can get that leadway to make mistakes, so that you can get that credit. If I have a bad game or two, no one cries home like, oh, Errick, it's over. They might be like, yeah, he's old, but we know Errick, he'll be okay. But when you're 22 years old, one bad game, two bad games, the level's too high. This is too much from him. Oh, he's coming from a small team, or he's coming from college. This is too much. If Marcus Foster has a bad game, he's just getting acclimated. He just got here, from China, or he just got here from home, whatever, boom. He'll be all right. So it's just a different level of understanding, a different level of freedom. And until you build that up in Europe, it's hard for young players to succeed, because this generation is used to things being given to them or not being as easily as we have got. We had to work a little bit harder. When I was coming up, it wasn't from this small team straight to the EuroLeague. Like, they valued winning also more than statistic. Now it's kind of shifted, where if you're on this horrible team but you're killing, you kind of get climbed up. But when I was coming up and I was 24 or 23 years old, I was always killing on teams, but it was like, yeah, you need more time. We want to see you win. And that's kind of how it was. So I'm glad that guys are getting this opportunity now to propel themselves, because oftentimes guys are better than the level that they're playing at. And teams are now recognizing that sometimes you can be a special player, but if you don't have the special pieces around you, you're not going to win games. And so I'm glad that these young guys are getting the opportunity. And now with that opportunity, you have to continue to work and take advantage of it, because you open the door up for someone in the next generation who's younger. And this thing will continue, because trust me, it used to be you would have to play 3-4 years overseas before the EuroLeague would give you that opportunity. Mike James was in second division. Eric McCullough was in second division. John Brown was in second division. Kyle Hines was in second division. The list goes on. So it was just a different era. Now with technology, social media, all these things, there's so much more access, where it's harder to stay under the radar. And I like it like that. I'm not one of those older guys who don't want to see the younger guys eating. I want to see y'all get more. I want to see the league continue to grow. I mean, Donatas can tell you, I'm an advocate for no fair play, no financial rules, none of that. Bring on Dubai, all the big money, bring them on, because I want to see everybody eat. But but that's what I can say. That's the formula. Go to a team that just wants to stay in the league, ball out, understand European play, and watch the games, and understand that when you get your opportunity to go to a higher team, you're not going to shoot the same amount of shots. You're not going to have the same freedom, but you establish yourself that year and you build your confidence up to put you in this position the following year. And so now the drop, if you don't play well at that high level, you always have teams beneath you, right? But if you skip that low level and you go straight to like that mid-level area and you don't play well, it's very murky waters. It's a tough pay cut. So that's the trajectory. A lot of kids want it right away, but if you can take the step, I think Moses Wright, I think Daniel Oturu, I think all these guys have shown you. And Oturu had some time in NBA. And he took a Dennis Lee job. So that shows you that if you take your time, you take the steps, and you don't skip them, you can get to where you need to go.
Yeah, that's huge. I think the main thing I would tell my young players is be you. Do what you did to get you that job that you're at right now. If you're supposed to go score 20, 25 a night, then go do it, because, teams are always watching. They're always trying to find talent. So I think you just have to lock in and really, really hone your craft, get what you're good at, and make sure you're the best at it. And another thing, too, is, when you get to that level, you have to adjust and figure out how to adjust quickly. I think from my past experiences, when, I played in Holon, I had a great year. Then I went from Holon to Panathinaikos. But in my mind, it was, now I have to do the exact same thing I did at Holon, but I have to do it at the EuroLeague level. But for me, I didn't need to do that. Nobody's expecting me to go average 18 points. They didn't want that. They wanted everything, all the other stuff I was doing that got me there. My defense ability that year, my passing ability was better. I was bringing energy, getting guys going, stuff like that. So I think at the moment, focus on your task at hand and do what you see guys like Errick was saying. If you're supposed to be like Elijah Bryant, do what he does, see what he's doing, watch the game, see what he's doing, and then perfect it at that level. And then when you get to that level, try to add to your game, but do what's going to get you on the floor. And it's going to change from time to time. I think that was an adjustment I had to make. One game I could play 20 minutes, and then the next 5-6 games I could only play 7-6 minutes. And it messes with you mentally, but that's how you become a better player, because now you're going through these things, and now nobody can tell you anything different because you've been through that situation. And I think also too, paying attention to what guys are doing, like those teams you said, Jerusalem. If that's a team that wants you and you see guys are going to the EuroLeague from there, you need to go. You need to go there and be a part of it and do what guys did to get to the EuroLeague, and also have a good agent. I think people don't talk about enough. I think taking your agent process serious and seeing the history that they have also plays a part to get you to where you want to get to, no matter what level it is. Because I look at it like all guys are trying to get to a certain level. I have friends that are in second division that are just trying to get to first division. I got guys playing Europe Cup that wants to get to Euro Cup Champions League. And then, I have guys in EuroLeague that are just trying to be there, trying to make their name there and trying to stay there. So, guys are always trying to get to a higher level no matter what it is. So, just being patient, enjoying the process also too, because, Errick can tell you this line of business that we're in is tough. You're overseas, you're in these different countries. Most of the time you're not in a great country. You got to find stuff to do, stay out of trouble. The best thing you do is become friends with the TV, watch basketball, and be in the gym, be that guy that's always there. Encourage your teammates to go to help you and help them. And, I remember I had a friend that played with Darius Thompson, and I forgot the team names, but I know it was in the Netherlands area. Okay. Yeah. And, he was just telling me, like, he's going to be in the EuroLeague one day. And, I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, this guy, he's making low on the lower end of money. Like, how is he gonna get to the EuroLeague? He's like, just watch. Like, he's always in the gym. He's always positive. He's never too high, never too low. He knows his game, and he's gonna keep building on that. And I think he made a huge increase in his pay that next year. And then I was watching this guy. I'm like, I can't believe this is the guy my friend's been telling me about the whole season. And then a year later, he's in the EuroLeague. And I'm like, okay, I can see the process. I can see how you get there. So I think it's about watching other guys, seeing what they're doing, and keeping your circle tight. Have good people around you that are going to motivate you to get to your higher potential.
That's some good stuff, guys. I mean, thanks for sharing your knowledge. I hope that future EuroLeague players or future highest level EuroCup or BCL players are also listening to this podcast, to take some advices from this conversation. But just before the very end, I wanted to bring up the last topic that I have, since I have two BCL players, best top profile scorers. I wanted to ask you to list 4 top BCL teams power ranking to win the BCL this year. How do you imagine those?
It's tough because I think the 3 best teams are in one group. You got Karsheka, Tenerife, and who's the other team?
Jerusalem?
And Jerusalem. If they were in different groups, I think they would make it to that next top 8 stage. But, you can never leave Tenerife off the list. I think they didn't have the years like they had before where they were so dominant, I feel like. But they're always going to be there. Their style of play, their coaching, their team, they've been together for a while. Jerusalem, I think with them having that connection of playing with each other last year, I think it's tough with the coach change. So I think, and also not be able to play in Israel because of the war situation, I think that might change their situation a little bit. And then Karsheka, the talent they have, anytime you're going against Errick, like you said, what you're going to get out of them. So you're nervous for that matchup because, the talent they have. It's a tough competition. And Mercer, Malaga. So if I had to pick, I would definitely go with Mercer, Malaga, Karsheka, and Jerusalem.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a tough race. Who do you have, Errick, besides Karashiaka, of course?
For me, I would say Malaga. I mean, they've been consistent all year in ACB, in the Champions League. They have depth. They have chemistry. They've kept a lot of continuity with the coaches, with the staff, with the players. They kept everything the same, and they were just a step away last year. And I think they built off of that and took it to another level. Probably was disappointing losing at home in the Final Four, to an excellent Bond team. But they've shown who they are, what they can be. And I think they've been the most consistent team this year in Champions League. Number 2, I would say Murcia. They've been also doing it in ACB League. Shout out to ACB League. A lot of teams there having success. But also in the Champions League, they've been great. Dylan Ennis is having a great year. And then when their big fella got hurt, and I was wondering how they would do. He was probably the most impactful player in ACB for them. And he goes down, he misses, half the Champions League game, and they just keep rolling. So, that was interesting. Just to see that. So I think they're in there. And then from our group, I think the other 2 teams who get out, because you're going to be battle tested, right? You're playing at Karşıyaka Gym in that hostile atmosphere. And, if you're able to move forward, you're showing that you have a team full of talent, but also that you have nerves, that you have experience. Tenerife, they're a champion. They've already done it before. They won. They actually came into our gym and they beat us, so we have to return the favor, but first of all, we got to focus one game at a time on Jerusalem. But, that's a team that is always a force to be reckoned with, And then you look at Jerusalem, the taste was right there. Trophy was on their lips. They lost in the final to that Bond team. And, they were just an elite team that year. And they were in our group. Yeah. So I seen it, on the regular. But anytime you're that close, you bring back that same crew, those same players. You have a player of Levi Randolph's caliber, to lead them, and then you see it. They won in Peristeri in Greece with him having 1 point. That shows you that they have other options. Speedy Smith hits the big three. Scores 22 points. They bring back their big. They have good role players and Israeli guys. They have that balance. And the fact that they're able to have this success without playing essentially a home game through the midst of this war and everything that's occurred, and to still be able to go out there and play basketball, hats off to them. Kudos to them, because that's not easy to do. It's easy to lose focus in that scenario. So I think, I don't know who it's going to be, but whatever two teams come out of our group, God willing, I hope it's on us. We just continue to play, have good health. But I think that's going to be the other two Final Four teams. So stay tuned.
Yeah, everybody's talking about EuroLeague and how competitive it is this year with this crazy race both for play-in, for the playoffs, or even the Final Four. But BCL, you shouldn't underrate the competitiveness and the high level of basketball that we have in BCL this year. And it's just a pity that, Ritas was not in the same group, like Karšiaka, like Jerusalem. And we were like so close that two of you were in the same BasketNews studio in Vilnius. Because if Ritas advanced to the top 16, we would have had Karšiak and Ritas in the same group. But Vasilis Panulis happened, and the guy has a history of changing plans of some teams and their fans. But never mind. It was just a great opportunity to have you both here on the podcast. You to share the knowledge. It's a pleasure to take this all knowledge that you share. It's a pleasure to see you bringing the excitement to BCL, Turkish, Lithuanian basketball fans, and I hope both basketball fans and basketball people and future EuroLeague star players as well enjoyed this conversation as much as possible. So thank you too for being on the EuroBONUS podcast, and see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Shout out to my Lithuanian friends. Y'all take care. I miss y'all guys.